So today what we'll be talking about in this particular series, today we'll be focusing on UV visible spectrophotometer. And as I told you, as I narrated you, what would be our aim? Our aim for today is to have a clear-cut understanding of the principle and instrumentation and use in terms of nucleic acids only. In terms of nucleic acid, we will not be talking about any scenario where we are talking about determination of protein or anything. See, no matter where you use this particular spectrophotometer, but the principle and instrumentation will always be same, right? It's just the matter of application where you are using it. So by the end of this lecture, I hope that you will be able to understand the complete aspect of spectrophotometer, understand where it can be used other than your nucleic acid determination, right? So let us begin with the principle first of all. So when we are talking about the principle is very simple. It is Lambert's Beer law. This law is actually the defining principle behind the UV visible spectrophotometer. Now, before we talk about the UV visible spectrophotometer, let us talk about a term called as absorbance. Absorbance. What is absorbance? Now, see, consider a simple example, simplest example. I have a tube. I have a tube. It is filled with a colored solution. It contains different particles. It is colored. Have the solution. It may be colored. It may contain different particles depending upon different solution. What I did, I imparted light here. Light came as a form of photon. Light came as a form of photon. Fine. So it was h mu, photons. So certain portion of this light will be taken up by these molecules and the remaining will be transmitted. Remaining will be transmitted. So let's talk about this light is incident. This light is transmitted. So if I ask which one will be greater, then of course it's a common sense answer that incidence will be always greater than transmittance. So where the difference has gone? Where this difference is gone? The difference is in terms of the concentration where this particular solution is present. When the light was traveling through this path, when the light was traveling through this path, the compounds or the atoms which are present, the molecular structure which is present inside this particular solution, absorb the light. It went for absorbing the light. Now, why absorbing is occurring? Why absorbing is occurring? It's very simple. See, let's talk about the simplest compound. Everybody is familiar with this. What is this? This is benzene. It's an aromatic ring. Fine. And then we have conjugation in this very ring. So there is an electronic cloud which is going for conjugation. And all the compounds, all the molecules which have aromaticity included in their structure, they all absorbs beautifully, and you will see the absorbance of either protein, nucleic acid, and other molecules based on these aromatic ring structures only. Those are the critical features that impart absorbance power. So the portion of the incident light is absorbed, and this is what we are measuring in terms of Lambert's Beer law using spectrophotometer. So a spectrophotometer is used to measure absorbance. That's the bottom line. Now, what is Lambert's Beer law? What is Lambert's Beer law? Now, Lambert's Beer law, what they said, they clearly stated that absorbance is equals to epsilon Cl. Now, please take a note that this is not E, it is epsilon. It is written in this manner. Absorbance is equals to epsilon Cl. Now, they didn't give this particular equation. In the original term, what Lambert and Beer told, that absorbance is directly proportional to the concentration of the analyte. That means the concentration of the solution which is present in the tube, and also it is directly proportional to the path length. What is path length? The length occupied by the solution in which the light is traveling. So this is L and this is the concentration. So higher the concentration, higher is the absorbance. Larger the length, that means longer distance it will be traveling in that solution. higher will be the absorbance. Higher will be the absorbance. So when you remove this sign of proportionality, the constant of proportionality which you get is epsilon, which is called as molar absorptive coefficient. Molar absorption coefficient. Now this is a standard value. This is a constant value for every given solution. For every given solution, what you are determining. See, what if you are going for nucleic acid determination, then there is a set molar absorptivity coefficient that we use. Fine. So what this particular equation implies? What this particular equation implies? Suppose I have this solution as DNA. I have DNA solution. I want to quantitate that what is the concentration of this particular DNA. Now, in terms of concentration, what I meant how many microgram per ml, how many microgram per ml. So I want to identify the concentration. What is concentration? See, I want to enumerate that. My spectrophotometer will give me a reading of absorbance. So this will be taken up by UV visible spectrophotometer. This will be taken up by UV visible spectrophotometer. Then what else? Then this is your constant quantity that will be using. Now in UV visible spectrophotometer, the instrument, we always use a standard tube for measuring these particular solution, and that standard tube is called as cuvette. Cuvette with the name of cuvette. Now, the diameter or the length of that cuvette, if we talk about, I should not say diameter because it is not a cylindrical, it is a rectangular part, and this particular length is called as L. This particular length is called as L, and it is always constant with the quantity of 1 centimeter. So, wherever you are using spectrophotometer, please remember L is always 1 centimeter when you are using the cuvette, but if you are using the blade, then of course it changes. Okay, so this we have identified using spectrophotometer. Then by cross multiplication, simply we can calculate the concentration, and that is the main objective of spectrophotometer, that if you want to enumerate the concentration of any given analyte, you can use spectrophotometer, and this is the formula by which we calculate the concentration of any given analyte. So how we go about? Let's talk about after this principle. Let's talk about another important aspect. Suppose, for example, I got the reading of absorbance. Now see, absorbance, and we talk about OD. Many people say that we are measuring OD. OD is what? Optical density. OD is what? Optical density. So people use both the terms synonymously. Some people are using absorbance. Some people are saying about optical density. When you're talking about a particulate matter, you talk about the optical density part. Now, it's one of the same thing. You are getting a reading in this scenario. So if you get a reading of, say, 0.5 in the spectrophotometer, 0.5 OD of this DNA is present. Fine. So with the standard value, while enumerating in spectrophotometer, we have certain standard values. So what is the standard value of DNA that we are talking about? See, let me clear the frame. The standard value of DNA is 1 optical density, 1 absorbance. If the reading is 1 at what? At 260 nanometer. While we'll be starting in the next slide, we'll be starting with our instrumentation part. Then you'll be seeing that in spectrophotometer, although we have an option of using multiple wavelengths, but we always take a single wavelength. Why we take a single wavelength? That I'll tell you. 1 OD at 260 nanometer is equal to 50 microgram per ml of double-stranded DNA. That's the standard value. Fine. So if I am getting suppose 0.5, if I am getting 0.5, so I want to enumerate what is the concentration. It's simple. If 1 OD is having 50, then 0.5 OD will be having what? It will be having 25 microgram. So I can directly enumerate 25 microgram is there with me. 25 microgram is there with me. And that is what we are talking about, double stranded. Similar to this, if one OD, at 260 nanometer, if we are talking about, then it will be having 30 to 33 micrograms per ml of single stranded DNA. That's the standard value. Always remember these standard values, because nobody is going to tell you the standard value, right? This is the gold standard that you can use always, and we have calculated this using different concentration of DNA, and it is acceptable globally in any lab in the world. If you go, these are the standard values that we are talking about. If you are talking about the double stranded DNA, then 50 microgram corresponding to 1 OD is standard. If we are talking about the single stranded DNA, then we are talking about 30 to 33 microgram per ml at 1 OD at 260 nanometer. Not only about the DNA, but similar case is with RNA. If you are measuring RNA and you get an OD of 1 at 260 nanometer, then it is equivalent to 40 microgram per ml of RNA. That is another set of standard value that you should always remember regarding the spectrum value. So these are actually the standard sets how we calculate the concentration of nucleic acid. And even if you don't remember these sets, then what you can do, you can use the formula of absorbance equals to epsilon concentration and L. And based on that formula itself, we have attained these standard values. So we have given you a simple standard. So if you get in any kind of OD, and if you are using the double strand DNA, you can directly calculate from this value. So always remember this particular aspect. Now, let us go ahead and talk about the instrumentation part first, because it's very important. See, in labs, you will regularly see instruments of spectrophotometer. We have multiple spectrophotometers, nanodrops inside our lab also. So what you see or what you hear always, you hear two names: single beam spectrophotometer. There are two types that you should discuss in terms of instrumentation. First is single beam spectrophotometer. Next is double beam. Double beam. Now, what is single beam and what is double beam? It's the name itself is defining. In single beam, we will be having a single ray of light in single beam form. In double beam, we should be having double beam. So how this arrangement is talked about? Let us first talk about this particular single beam spectrophotometer. Let's first talk about single beam. So I told you we need light. For light, we need a source. So we have a lamp of white light. If we are going for visible region, we use tungsten lamp. So we can use the lamp. Now this lamp will be giving you light in every possible direction of multiple wavelengths. Now the range of spectrophotometer ranges from 190 nanometer to, it works around 900 nanometer till 900 nanometer, but it is not advisable to go to that far. That is the range that a typical spectrophotometer is providing. So the light which you are taking in visible region, it will range from 300 nanometer or 300 nanometer to let's talk about 800 nanometer. So every possible wavelength, 300, 301, 302, 310, 350, and so on, every wavelength light is imparted in possible directions. And I have to channelize this particular light a single line. So what I do? I incorporated a slit method. Very simple thing. You have a lamp. The lamp is giving a light. Fine. What you did, in the front direction, you applied a cardboard. You applied a paper. In that paper, you opened up the slit. So the complete light is falling, but only from the slit, a beam is coming out. So that is the method what we are using. So complete light is falling on this scenario, but it is diverging, and then it is coming out in a form of a beam. All the wavelengths are coming out in a linear fashion now. Then there is another part of the instrumentation that is attached here that we call as collimator, or I prefer to call it as monochromator. Now what is monochromator? Mono means single, Chromator means color, single color producing filter, that is called as monochromator. So what is that what we are talking about? Here I told you that we have all the possible wavelengths. We have all the possible wavelengths, the value of lambda. I want only, suppose I want here from all the possible wavelengths, that is 300 to 800, I only want the wavelength of 260 nanometers. Suppose, for example, I just want this single wavelength. That is possible by using monochromator because it will allow only a single wavelength to pass on, and that is the function of the collimator. It has multiple filters, so whatever the feeding you will be giving, that suppose I want 600 nanometer, I am doing ELISA and I want 600 nanometer, that 600 nanometer wavelength will be allowed to pass. So once you have given the command, then this 260 nanometer wavelength will be passing. Here you will be having your cuvette, or first of all in the instrument it will be a holder, the place where you can put your sample, and in this place you can put your cuvette. You can put your cuvette. Cuvette is what? Cuvette is again the vial or the tube in which you have filled up the test sample, in which you have filled up the test sample. Fine. Now let's talk about this cuvette. See, if you are using UV, there are two options, whether you are using UV or you are using a visible light, or you are using a visible light. If you are using UV, then you have to use a quartz cuvette. Why? Because UV rays are reflected back from the tube onto the sample. So whatever the wavelength you are giving, that wavelength will be reflected back from the tube onto the sample. So whatever the wavelength you are giving, that wavelength will be reflected back from the tube onto the sample. So whatever the wavelength you are giving, that wavelength will be reflected back from the tube onto the sample. So whatever the wavelength you are giving, that wavelength will be reflected back from the tube onto the sample. So whatever the wavelength you are giving, that wavelength will be reflected back from the tube onto the sample. So whatever the wavelength you are giving, that wavelength will be reflected back from the tube onto the sample. So whatever the wavelength you are giving, that wavelength will be reflected back from the tube onto the sample. So whatever the wavelength you are giving, that wavelength will be reflected back from the tube onto the sample. So whatever the wavelength you are giving, that wavelength will be reflected back from the tube onto the sample. So whatever the wavelength you are giving, that wavelength will be reflected back from the tube onto the sample. So whatever the wavelength you are giving, that wavelength will be reflected back from the tube onto the sample. So whatever the wavelength you are giving, that wavelength will be reflected back from the tube onto the sample. So what we were talking about? We were talking about that we are we have attained the understanding of the cuvette. Now, when I am talking about the cuvette part, then please understand that this cuvette is made up of two materials, quartz and glass. Like when you are working in laminar, fine, when you are switched on the UV, there is a glass which you put, there is a glass in the side window also. So it's understandable that UV is not able to cross the glass. So if you are using a glass cuvette and you are using the UV range nanometer length, this is in UV, this is in UV, then it will not be allowed to pass. The complete light will be reflected back. That is the reason why you should use quartz cuvette. If you are using any wavelength above 300 nanometer, 300 and above, then always glass. If anything less than 300, from 190 to 300, then you should use quartz cuvette. Okay, so your light has fallen on this, then it will transmit it in this direction, a portion is absorbed, and this particular transmitted wavelength is recorded in a recorder, which is a which gives you a digital signal, in form of OD, in form of optical density, and this is called as single beam spectrophotometer. This is called as single beam spectrophotometer. Why? Because it's a single beam and there is a single loader to load the sample. So what happens when you're working in this? You want to, you have isolated a certain molecule and you have dissolved it in water. Fine. So you took a OD and it came 0.5, but you never corrected it with the background. How? You should first take an optical density of blank, that is water itself, and then you should take the OD of your sample, and then you should subtract the sample minus blank value. So what you have to do, every time you have to put a new vial, every time you have to put a blank vial if you want to go for autosave. That is the part of single beam. Now, when we are talking about the double beam, when we are talking about the double beam spectrophotometer, double beam spectrophotometer. When we are talking about the double beam spectrophotometer, what is happening here? See, we have a lab. How it is? See, in this you have to understand how we can manage two beams. For two beams, I can use two different lamps, like two lamps, which will give me in the same direction. But then again, accommodating two lamps will make my instrument bigger. It will increase the cost and it is not effective. Why? Because a beam for separate beam for sample and a separate beam for my standard, that is not recommended. That is not recommended. The intensity may vary every time. So what? How we split the beam to give you two double beam? The basic phenomena is simple that we have discussed in the form of single beam. There is a slit also which will allow the focused array to pass on, focused array to pass on. Then we have a chromator, monochromator will be there, which will allow a different wavelength to pass on. Now here the difference starts. Here the difference starts. When it is moving on, we have a specialized mirror here. Mirror. Now this is called as half mirror. This is called as half mirror. See, what is mirror? If you see in mirror, you get a reflection of yourself. That means a mirror reflects 100%. But what is half mirror? Half mirror will reflect 50% of the light and will allow 50% to pass through. That is what happens when you go to a maze, mirror maze, and you see your blurred images there. Those are the half mirrors. So what they are doing, what it will be doing, it will allow half to pass and half we have arranged in such a scenario that it will allow half to get reflected in a perpendicular direction. So if it is I, this will be I half and this will be I half. So there is an equal splitting of the beam. There is an equal splitting of the beam. Then we have full mirror here. Then we have a full mirror. It will allow 100% reflection. Full mirror. We have arranged in such a manner that this light will now be going in this direction. And we have now attained two sample loaders, one here and one here. I have a blank or standard in this particular cuvette. I have a sample in this particular cuvette. Fine. Then this will be transmitting the light. This will again be transmitting the light. Then again, I have incorporated a mirror, full mirror, which will reflect the light in this direction. And then there will be a separate instrument measurement, which will be called as So we are, I guess we are back. We had so I guess we are back. We had a small technical error due to the network connection. So what I was saying that there is a blind which will transfer the light, and this again is a full mirror. This again is a full mirror, and then it is reflecting the light, and there is a collector which will collect the light which is coming out of sample and blind, and then it will transfer it to the detector, and this detector will be giving you the optical density measurement. This will be giving you the optical density measurement, and this is the complete setup of your double beam. So what we have done, we have splitted the same beam into two halves so that we can have a two slots. We can have two slots. So in one slot, you always keep your blank. You have always kept, suppose if the water is your solvent, you have always kept the solvent, and then you are adding fresh sample every time, fresh sample every time. Whereas in single beam, you first have to add blank, then sample, then blank, then sample, then blank, then sample. So you have attained an instrument which is compact and will give you a corrected optical density. You need not to go for sample minus blank again and again. It will give you a corrected optical density while comparing or normalizing with the blank scenario, And this is the instrumentation part of spectrophotometer, double beam spectrophotometer. Then let's talk about the part which we are interested, that is quantification of nucleic acids. And specifically, I'll be talking about the DNA because we had isolated the DNA and we are talking about this quantification. Now, for quantification, one should be able to know at what wavelength you are gonna wavelength you are using, what wavelength you are using. So, as I said, this is a monochromator and it will allow a single wavelength to pass. So first of all, your job is to know what wavelength is used. So for nucleic acid, we always use absorbance, which should be measured at wavelength 260 nanometer. For nucleic acid, always you have to use 260 nanometer. Why? Question is why? How we determine what wavelength we have to use. Suppose this is a reference thing. If I give you an unknown compound and I ask you, tell me what wavelength should I use in future always to use the spectrophotometer for estimating the concentration, then that study is called as measuring the lambda max. Lambda means wavelength, maximum wavelength. Measuring the wavelength where maximum absorbance is happening. So I will be clearing this frame. Let us see what I do. I always start from 190 nanometer and I go till 800 nanometer and I calculate absorbance at every wavelength. I don't calculate, I program it, and then spectrophotometer give me a reading. So it will give you a graph. It will give you a graph. Here it will be wavelength and here it will be absorbance or optical density. And you will see that you get a graph in this scenario. So the point where maximum absorbance is coming, you take that wavelength and you call this wavelength as lambda max, wavelength at which maximum absorption is taken place. And this particular experiment where you are taking the complete range and measuring the absorbance, that is called as absorption spectra. That is called as absorption spectra, and this absorption spectra is characteristic for different compounds. It is unique for every compound. Every compound will be having its own defined lambda max. So when we are using nucleic acid and we perform this experiment, we observe that this particular lambda max is coming at 260 nanometer. And when we used proteins, we saw that the lambda max is coming at 280 nanometer. And that is how we define that what wavelength we have to use. So for quantification of DNA or nucleic acid, we are using 260 nanometer and we measure the OD. When we are getting the optical density, then suppose, as I told you in earlier form, we get 0.5, then based on the Beer-Lambert formula, you will be calculating the concentration, or you can directly calculate based on the standard that one OD is having 50 microgram per ml of double-stranded DNA. And you will calculate the concentration. So any DNA solution I give you, you can now easily measure the concentration. Now point number two. Point number two is we can also use this particular spectrophotometer in order to determine the purity of DNA. How we measure the purity? We measure the ratio of absorbance. See, what is purity? What are the contaminants that are present while isolating the DNA? We have DNA, we will be having RNA and protein. These three molecules are measured when we are talking about in terms of isolating the DNA. So suppose you will take the absorbance of the given sample at both the nanometers 260 and you will divide it by 280. So the absorbance at 260 divided by the absorbance at 280 will give you a value. The ratio will give you, the ratio will come out. If this ratio is 1.7 to 1.8, then we say that the solution has pure DNA. That is the standard value. It contains pure DNA. Fine. If this particular ratio is near about 2, that means you have RNA contamination in DNA. You have RNA contamination in DNA. If this solution is less than 1.7, if this ratio is less than 1.7, then we say that you are having protein contamination in your DNA. Your DNA is not pure, it contains protein contamination. And that is how we determine the purity of isolated DNA. No matter what DNA you have isolated, whether it is viral DNA, whether it is any pathogenic mammalian plant DNA, this is a standard protocol to measure the purity. You measure the purity based on the ratio of the absorbance taken at 260 nanometer and 280 nanometer. Now, why DNA or RNA is giving you absorbance at 260? Because of its basis, that is A, T, G, C. And if you see the basis structure, they all contains aromatic rings, and because of that aromatic rings, you see the absorbance. Similarly, proteins show absorbance at 280 nanometer because of tryptophan, phenylalanine, and tyrosine. These are the aromatic amino acids. These are the aromatic amino acids which are responsible for the absorbance of proteins. And majorly to it is because of the tryptophan, because of the tryptophan. So that is all about in nutshell in basic principle and instrumentation and concept how we will use in while performing how we'll do. Then let us discuss the protocol. Let us discuss the protocol. What are your requirements? We have spectrophotometer, we have cuvette, we have micropipettes, everything you need. We understood that. We understood clearly the principle, each and every aspect we have understood. We have also understood how we are measuring the purity. Fine. Then what is the procedure? Procedure is very simple. You first have to switch on the machine. Now, please understand, you are using a lamp to generate a beam. The moment you switched it on, it will take certain time to get hot and then give you a uniform beam. So before starting your experiment, you have to switch on the spectrophotometer for at least 30 minutes so that it is now ready. Then you take the sample and you take the solution in which you have prepared the sample. You take the cuvette, you wipe the cuvette clearly, and you add 1 ml. You add 1 ml of your sample. Now, what is your sample? We are talking about right now DNA. So take your DNA and dilute it to make it 1 ml. How you will dilute? See, you have isolated the DNA and you have dissolved it in only 100 microliter. It contains your concentrated DNA. You take 10 microliter from this and add 990 microliter of TE buffer, TE DRIS ADTA buffer. This 100 microliter dissolving you have done in TE buffer while isolating the DNA. So it is now what? It is now 1 ml. You put this complete solution in your cuvette, and use it to measure in the spectrophotometer, and you will get the OD. So now you got the OD. So the OD value multiply by the dilution factor. Why? Because you have diluted it here. Dilution factor multiply by 50 microgram per ml, 50 microgram per ml, and you will get the concentration of the DNA what you want to calculate, and this is how we measure the complete part. This is how we measure the complete part. So what is the calculation that you take a OD at 260, you take an OD of at 280, fine. Then you take the ODs at the blank and you perform the same formula, absorbance dilution factor multiplied by 50. Now, what is dilution factor? The place where maximum time people do mistake. What is dilution factor? See, it's very simple what you have taken. Volume of T buffer you have taken 990 microliter. Volume of DNA sample taken 10 microliter divided by volume of sample taken, that is 10 microliter. So 990 plus 10, 1000 by 10, 100. So the dilution factor is 100. This is how you calculate the dilution factor. So volume of solvent taken plus volume of sample taken divided by volume of sample taken. That is your dilution factor. That is your dilution factor. So this is all what we wanted to narrate you, or what I wanted to narrate you in this section of spectrophotometer. I hope the lecture was fruitful to you, and I hope that you were able to attain the basic understanding of the complete scenario, how we quantitate the DNA. So till so next time we'll again be meeting another topic in the same series. So till then, take care, and wish you a very happy learning.